There's been a lot of teams this offseason acquiring star players. Celtics signed Gordon Hayward. The T-Wolves traded for Jimmy Butler. The Thunder acquired Paul George. And Chris Paul is now a member of the Houston Rockets. But CP3's old team, the Los Angeles Clippers, now headed by Jerry West, to me have had still one of the best off seasons of any team in the league when you look at the situation that they were presented with and how they've managed to come out on the other side with a team that, to me, is actually pretty exciting and littered with a decent amount of talent. They knew that they were screwed with Chris Paul, because it's come out now that he and James Harden wanted to play together, and instead of just letting him go and having Houston free up the salary some other way, Jerry West found a sign and trade that actually worked out pretty well. He ended up with Sam Decker, Montrezl Harrell. Is it Montrezl? I don't know at this point. Two young guys who I'm pretty intrigued by. I think they can be something. They also got a first-round pick out of the move, which they then turned into Danilo Gallinari, re-signed Blake Griffin, and I think, they also acquired Patrick Beverley in that trade as well, which is a very good pickup. And suddenly you have a team now who, one, is just talented, but also there's some decent trade pieces. I think, would someone trade for Lou Williams with 1 year left on his deal? Potentially. I think someone would definitely trade for Patrick Beverley. So there's some trade pieces for you. You could also just use those guys, especially Beverley, to just make you a good, fun team right now. And then I think with the addition of Danilo Gallinari, I think it's a decently talented team. I mean, if your starting lineup is potentially Patrick Beverley, I'll get to the new point guard in a second, but if you're going with Beverley, maybe your two guard is either Austin Rivers or Lou Williams. Maybe it's Lou Williams just because he has more offensive firepower, but Austin Rivers was actually pretty okay this previous season as an offensive player. Then Gallinari at the 3, Blake Griffin at the 4, DeAndre Jordan at the 5. This is still a pretty good team. Then you have Decker off the bench and then Harrell as well. I do think the Clippers could actually be pretty fun, and I do think they could still contend for the postseason this year. Sure, they may have lost that top 10 player in Chris Paul, but they made up for one of their biggest weaknesses, which is that they were one of the least effective teams in the league when it came to their depth. The moment they went to their bench, it was just like night and day how much worse the team got. Now you have actual guys to go to on your second unit here. Now we're going to get to Milos Teodosic, their new point guard. I hope I'm saying that right. Could he actually replicate Chris Paul's playmaking? Maybe. I mean, if you see the guy on YouTube and you look at just some of the passes he makes, they're pretty damn exciting. My question is going to be, can he still get up to like 7 or 8 assists a game just being in an NBA offense where guys might be a little faster and a little bit stronger than dudes in the EuroLeague and defenders might just be a little bit more mean to him? I don't know if he'll start because Patrick Beverley competing for a starting spot in summer camp is probably miserable to go up against. He'll definitely be playing 20 plus minutes a game and being an effective ball handler for them, whether he's in the starting lineup or whatever. Another thing that intrigues me a lot with him is his three-point shooting. He's been really good from 3 for the decent chunk of his career and the last 6 seasons especially. I mean, this previous year, he shot 38% from outside while attempting 7 a game. That's pretty damn effective to be a floor spacer. Now, there are some things I'm not intrigued by. One of which is he only shoots about 4 free throws a game. He also gets 3 turnovers a game while not even averaging 7 assists. So there are definitely some red flags. I also don't know what he is defensively. I did some Googling, I couldn't really find anything. He could be an awesome defender, he could be terrible, he could be good enough. I don't know. So I do think there is an avenue for Patrick Beverley starting over him, but I could also see the rationale in him starting over Beverley. Would they start together? I don't know. You would have to see if Patrick Beverley could defend NBA shooting guards consistently. Maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. I don't know. But that's just the guys on the roster. I mean, if we're talking about like how this team is going to play, Blake Griffin already averaged around 4 or 5 assists a game. Could he average even more than that? Because to me, he wasn't getting the ball enough with opportunities to create for others with Chris Paul on the team. And now that you don't have that dominant ball handler, I'm sure that the distribution around the entire team is going to be higher if Doc Rivers knows what he's doing. So maybe Blake will have the ball in the post more often, and then guys can work off of that. I mean, you could have a team of like Teodosic at the point or Beverly, Rivers or Lou Williams, Gallinari at the 3, Blake Griffin doing stuff at the 4. Like, there's a lot of spacing there for someone like Blake to have guys to kick out to. And then, of course, he has a good chemistry with DeAndre Jordan when it comes to, like, lobbing it up to him inside and stuff like that. So maybe Blake Griffin is going to explode with his playmaking this season. He's already been a damn good playmaker. And I think just him having the ball more often in the post could definitely be a thing. But what intrigues me besides just Blake getting the ball more is there's a lot of ball handlers with Teodosic, Patrick Beverly, Austin Rivers, Lou Williams. Some of those guys are better passers than others, but there's a lot of guys here who could get screens from Blake or DeAndre, and then all of those guys can shoot as well, so a lot of versatility in the backcourt for the Clippers. I also want to see how Gallinari is incorporated into this whole thing, because to me, that guy's kind of limitless with the type of offense you can run for him. You can have him cutting to the rim because he's a big dude. You can have him running off of screens because he can shoot. You could have him setting screens because he can score on mismatches, and he has like some isolation and post-up abilities. But I don't know if Doc Rivers is the right coach for that. I just haven't been impressed with Doc's X's and O's game for the last few seasons with the Clippers. Like, he's got the basic stuff down. Like, he knows how to use Chris Paul, and like, he'll get Blake and DeAndre screening for Chris at least sometimes. But I don't think he can get really creative. I don't know if he's going to be able to use Gallo in weird ways. Because I actually think if you use Gallinari as a conventional small forward, I don't know if he can actually be that good for you, because I don't know if he's athletic enough to really score on opposing threes that much. I feel like you have to have him moving off ball, and I mean, maybe he could use him in the JJ Redick style, but even then, if all you're doing is having Gallo just run across the floor until he gets open, I don't think that's using him effectively. I think he can do that at times, but, you know, like I mentioned, having him switch on to dudes and set screens and all that stuff. We'll just have to see if Doc is ready to use Gallo effectively. But I like where the Clippers are at. I think they could contend for somewhere in the playoffs. I think they'll be maybe competing in that 6 to 8 range with Utah and maybe Denver or something like that. New Orleans would probably be in there as well. So the West is just going to be good from top to bottom. I should also mention, if the Grizzlies are not going to trade Marc Gasol, they're probably another team in there as well. You get it. We'll just see where they go from here.